Hello and welcome to another strange story. This time the location is southern Spain. A small town called Belmez, set against a mountainous backdrop. Quite rural, quiet sort of place. It was here in the summer of 1971 that a mystery would begin in one of these houses, a mystery that continues to the present day. This is the house in question. It looks quite unremarkable from outside, or even inside for that matter, for the most part. And it was in this house in the summer of 1971 where a lady called Maria Gomez was playing with her young grandson in the kitchen of the family home. The grandson was only really a toddler, maybe about 3 years old or so. All of a sudden he cried out excitedly and pointed at the floor. He had seen something appear there, which to him was just an interesting new game, but it left his grandmother absolutely terrified, because inexplicably, suddenly, an image of a human face had appeared on the concrete floor. At least that was the claim made by the house's occupants. According to their story, when they tried to clean this face off, they tried to scrub it away, they couldn't remove it, but as they scrubbed, the eyes appeared to get wider, and the expression appeared to become more sad. Eventually, they smashed the concrete up with a pickaxe to get rid of it, and they threw the debris away and laid new concrete in its place. But just a few weeks later, a second face appeared, even more clearly defined than the first one. So this time the family were obviously frightened and had no explanation for what was going on. It involved the local authorities, and the section of concrete was carefully removed this time and sent away for study. The floor was meanwhile repaired, but not long after, further faces began to appear. The local media and later the national media picked up on the story, resulting in the house becoming something of a magnet for tourists by the spring of the following year, 1972. And this phenomenon was to continue for at least another 30 years. So again, experts analysed the case, they analysed the images, they analysed the concrete. They were unable to prove, laboratory tests were unable to prove that the images had been faked. Chemical analysis failed to confirm the use of any paints or dyes. Although skeptics did continue to believe that the family had produced the images by means of some oxidizing chemical or pigment that stained the concrete. Now, that's possible, the faces could have been faked by the family, but the motive is not obvious why they would do this. It couldn't really have been a financial motive, because they never made any money from it. They never charged visitors for entry to the house, and in fact they refused to accept any donations. So while the town of Belmez may potentially have benefited somewhat financially from the tourism boost, the family themselves did not. So then the floor was excavated, the concrete was taken up altogether, the floor was excavated in the hopes of finding whatever was causing the phenomenon, and underneath a medieval cemetery was discovered. The bones, the skeletons were removed and reburied elsewhere, and the family hoped that this would lay the spirits, if that's what they were, to rest. However, these hopes were in vain, because as soon as the floor was restored, new concrete was put down, the images began to appear once again. Paranormal investigators were called in, and they placed ultra-sensitive microphones in the house. These microphones picked up, they recorded sounds of strange voices and cries and moans which were inaudible to the human ear. Now, with all of this apparently going on, you would imagine that the family would want to move out as quickly as possible. But Maria Gomez actually remained there for the remainder of her life, and she lived until 2004. The faces continued to appear at intermittent intervals over the following decades. So, what was going on? Was this a real phenomenon, or was it, as the skeptics claimed, faked? Certainly one paranormal investigator who was convinced argued or claimed that the Belmez case was the most important paranormal phenomenon of the 20th century. Certainly the mystery remains, and is still going strong today, in fact. Although Maria Gomez died in 2004, reports of fresh faces appearing at the property have continued. The doubters continue to claim fraud. Many others regard the phenomenon as genuine. They speculate that those who believe in the phenomenon speculate that the site of the house was once the scene of some terrible incident. Perhaps the medieval cemetery, hundreds of years earlier, had been the site of some terrible incident, or perhaps some ritual or occult practice, some form of medieval witchcraft, perhaps, which had opened a portal to the spirit world, a portal which remains. Whatever the truth or otherwise of these claims, the once obscure little town of Belmez remains one of the most famous sites of alleged paranormal activity in the world to the present day. So, what do you think? Is this a fake? A fraud, a long-running fraud perpetuated over decades? Or is this real evidence of the existence of paranormal phenomena? I'll leave that to you to consider. Hope you enjoyed this strange story, and please tune in for the next episode. Thanks very much.